Next up, Rachel Pinn, food as love language. Yes, give it up for Rachel.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Hello. Okay. Sorry, I am not a public speaker, and yet I am. I'm going to humble brag and say that I'm used to talking to 25,000 people on Instagram every day, but it's very rare that I talk to like 200 people in person, so I'm sorry if this is awkward. It's guaranteed. So in advance, apologies. But I also am not a public relations professional, and yet I also am, because all I do is PR for myself every day, because I've built a brand for myself, so that's kind of what I do. So I'll get into basically what I'm going to talk about is sort of all the things that I am, and then how I use social media, and how sort of what I recommend for when you guys use social media for your brands. So I am a food blogger, I'm a content creator, I'm a copywriter, I'm a creative, I'm an influencer, though that's sort of a crappy word. I'm a twin mom, I have twins, and a lot of different things, but what I want to tell you is that I try to offer a unique perspective on the use of social media as a tool to communicate with your audience. I'm going to go through the channels as they relate to food and love and communication, because all of those go together, I think. But you should think of social media as items on a menu, not as a buffet. So you want to use only what's necessary. Don't fill up. Don't go overboard. Only what's room on your plate, and only what you feel like today, only what's right for your brand, and not just everything all the time, even though you might want to. So first thing is a really good-looking burger. So, because that's what I do. The first piece of advice I have is to find a project that makes you feel the way I feel when I look at this burger. In other words, find your passion, and then do that every day. So I started out on Twitter, so we'll talk about Twitter first. I started out, people ask me how did I start, food bitch, what? And I just say, well, I just started telling people not to eat at Chili's. I apologize if you like Chili's or if you work for Chili's, I'm sorry. But that's the honest truth. I just said, just don't, just eat. You can spend $10 on your lunch, and you can eat at a mom and pop place that's gonna taste better, make you feel better, help someone with their small business, and it's just gonna be wonderful. Nothing against big brands, but just somebody who's trying harder to make you a better lunch. Anyone can boss someone around one day, but I feel like I can boss someone around every day, all the time. So you should find something that you want to do day in and day out. So a lot of people say, oh, I feel like I should start a blog. And I ask them, well, what do you feel like you could talk about every day, like all the time, and never get tired of it? Because I've been doing this since 2008, and I still take pictures of everything I eat, much to my husband's dismay. Let's see. If you recognize this burger, by the way, tweet it at me, and you might win a prize. That's all. The next picture is what could have been a Pinterest fail. I actually made this before Instagram existed. This is a Thanksgiving cake. It is not made out of sweet things, except for the marshmallows on top. It's like turkey meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and sweet potatoes, and stuffing and stuff. It's kind of gross, but kind of awesome. The point of this is to say a couple things. One is that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, but there's a good thing that there's a recipe for success on Pinterest. Sometimes it's pie or brisket or beer bread or a mug cake for two or something like that. Unfortunately, my husband really loves Chili's, so I don't know where I went wrong. But the other point is that failing is a really good thing sometimes. My favorite thing to do is to take a medium and use it like the wrong way, like kind of break it. Like if you're doing Google AdWords or something, just sort of like write them in a way that sort of goes against the way that it normally is and doesn't sound like a robot and just does things a little bit differently so that you surprise people. And that's just sort of a little tip for that. The next thing is, this is a picture of my Thanksgiving table. And this is oddly about LinkedIn. Food is love, and preparing a meal for people shows that you care. It says I love you without saying a word. Speaking of not talking, LinkedIn. How do you feel? How do you feed that guy at the party that no one wants to sit next to? Strategically. Basically, we're all still figuring LinkedIn out. It's like Thanksgiving when everyone in your family has different food allergies and preferences and political views, and your cousin is out of work and he keeps bringing up his job search. It's not great. Just get out of there. Just go in the kitchen. Basically, when it comes to social media, if it doesn't feel right, like, don't do it. So if something doesn't feel good in your heart, if it's been a bad day in the news, just don't. And if LinkedIn isn't the right place for you, don't. Just get out of there. Don't do it. And any other social media, if it's not right, it's not right. Just get up and move. It's all good. Next one. This is like my highest liked photo ever. It's a picture of 2 milkshakes. Not ever, but recently, in the past month. This is about food porn. We eat with our eyes first, and if it is love at first sight, it's time to double tap that on Instagram. Instagram's my favorite thing to talk about. Anybody else? Okay. Luckily for folks like me, so many of you do like to double tap, and that's what keeps me going. Live for it. Now, if only it burned calories, it would be amazing. Yeah. But anyway, let's not get too far into Instagram because there's so many things. Okay, the next thing to talk about is kind of cool. So, food, this is about Facebook, kind of, roundabout. Food is the one true universal language. It unites us, sometimes it divides us, it connects us to each other and our past generations, our cultures, and our countries. It gives us life. It's basically Facebook, in other words. If you have a really good idea, don't give up on it. So I had this idea that I thought was really cool. I received a box of granola bars called Bobos. I receive a lot of food. That's also a humble brag, but a lot of food just shows up at my door. Sometimes really weird things show up at my door, but a lot of food just shows up, and I got a crate. Probably 200 granola bars. And I was like, well, this is great. I'm not gonna have to buy granola bars for 2 months, but also, the Houston flood had just happened, and there were a lot of people who really could have used granola bars. So what I did was, for the entire month of September, every time someone offered to send me food, I replied back and I said, hey, look, here's the thing. If you want to send me food, please, that's great, and that's awesome. But if you want to send me food, and if you want to send the North Texas Food Bank food, the same food, the exact same amount, then I will promote the hell out of what you send me and your brand. I'll share it on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram, and that would make me feel a lot better about sort of using my power for good, you know? And I think that I did that for the whole month, and a lot of brands were really receptive to it. Because for them, they're already shipping out to a bunch of influencers, and instead of just take, I felt like it was a good idea to just sort of pay it forward a little bit, and it turned into something that I'm kind of just continuing now into forever, so. That's basically all I have to say about those things. And if anyone has any questions, they can hit me up on the social media. And if they want to know where to eat later today, that is also what you should do. Thanks very much.